welcome to another painting tutorial on the 18th Cadian Army Group YouTube channel. And in this episode we'll be painting the one and only Lieutenant Titus of the Space Marine 2 game. And what a game it is. If you're a big fan of the Ultramarines and you want to know how to paint Ultramarines in their official narrative colour scheme like you see on the YouTube channel, please watch this video. It will have all the details on how to paint this fantastic miniature. If you want to support the channel, please head over to my Patreon page for more perks, and if you're a few viewer, remember to hit that like button and subscribe as we continue on in this painting tutorial. Thank you for listening as we continue on this tutorial.
So we've sprayed the miniature and we've used Macleod blue Citadel spray paint. We also sub-assembled the head to make the process a lot easier. This is an assembly holder you can get from Games Workshop, and I stuck a little bit of blue tack so it makes painting Titus's head a lot easier. So what I've used for the base coat is Game Colour Ultramarines blue. So that's very, very important. One of the main base paints that I use for painting my 40k Ultramarines. So give it a good damp thirst with a base brush. This is an old base brush I use, and we're just going to cover the entire miniature, just literally all over the model. Once the base painting is finished, next we're going to use null oil, and we're going to do all the recess details on the panels here. So we're going to paint the recess details, any shadow areas. This is the second longest stage of painting the miniature. Next up, after the recess details are done, so you can bring, as you can see here, brings the contrast of the model to life. Now we're going to bring a little bit of lighting to the model, and what we're going to use is we're going to use Citadel layer paint, which is Calgar blue. So we're going to do the edge highlighting over the side of the recess details. You have to use I'm using an Artificer layer brush here to get a good edge highlight. It is very important that you do this. It brings the miniature to life. That looks better. You just give that a good edge highlight all across the miniature. Now this will be the longest stage throughout the whole model, and after this is done, the main bit is finished. Okay, the next stage after the edge highlighting is finished, as you can see here, the miniature has really been brought out to life. Brings the details out. It's looking really cool so far. So the next stage we're going to do is we're going to do two stages here in one frame. So I'm going to use a glaze wash. This is an old glaze wash. This is from Citadel Glaze. And here you go. So I'm going to do just a tiny bit on the top here. Just like that. Easy as that, just covering the whole surface there. So make sure that's all covered. And then when that dries, we're going to use Calgar blue to do the edge highlighting on the top there. But whilst that's drying, we are going to do a base coat of lead belcher. So lead belcher. You'll need a layer brush for this. It's still a layer brush, and we're going to paint the guns, the heavy bolt pistol and the chainsword, and any other metal details. So I'm going to start painting all those details, and this will really bring the miniature up to life. The next stage we're going to use Abaddon Black to go around the joints on the inside, these flexible parts of the body, and also for the gun casing on the top there and the chainsword. So this is good because it gives us a good foundation for the weapons. Once the Abaddon Black is finished, what we're going to use now is we're going to use Null Oil, and we are going to base coat the wash over the top of the metal details. Anything you see that's metal, you just paint over. Once the washes are done, some areas are still a little bit wet, but in the meantime there are other areas that are dry. So what I'm going to use is another Citadel layer paint, and it is Iron Breaker, and we're going to highlight the metal details. You can see here the cabling around the back, so it gives it a little bit of brightness along the edge on there. That's all the metal details done now, all finished, looking really, really good. And that was from Iron Breaker layer paint. So the next stage we're going to be doing is edge highlighting the black details. Now I'm going to use Eshin Grey Citadel layer paint. So we need a fine detail brush, or Artificer layer brush XS, and we're going to edge highlight the black details, going all round the picture and to get that edge in, and then I'll pop out the details, the black details, easily. That's all the black details complete. Once the edge highlight is all finished, now we're going to be applying Rhinox hide on all the leather details, such as the gun patches, ammo patches, and I think looking at the picture, yes, that's about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a layer paint, give 2 thin coats, and we're going to paint the gun patch. Once all the leather details are base coated, apply Agarax Earthshade over the entire leather detail. All the leather details, give it a good coat of Agarax Earthshade. Whilst the Agarax Earthshade is drying, you may as well start on the gold details. So I'm going to do a base coat of Retributor armour over the shoulder pads, the breastplate, and any other details that are gold. Next we're going to recoat with Rhinox hide over the top of the leather patches again. Next stage, we're going to apply Steel Legion drab, and we're just going to very carefully do the edge highlighting all over the details on the leather. Next stage, after doing Steel Legion drab, is we're going to use Scrag Brown just to bring out the colours a little bit more. That's all the leather details finished. Next up we're going to apply Reichland Flesh Shade over the top of the gold details. After the Reichland Flesh Shade has been applied, and when it's dried, apply a second coat of Retributor armour to bring back up the gold sheen. Once the second coat of Retributor armour has been applied, we are going to apply Rune Fang Steel. Rune Fang Steel This will bring out even more of a gold trim. That brings up the colours to bring them together. It gives that nice edge highlight and it brings the colours together. As you can see here, all the gold details are finished. It really does bring the miniature to life. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do the red details. We're going to do the lieutenant's insignia, and we're going to do the chainsword handle, and we're going to paint corn red as a base coat on those areas. And any other details, just double checking the miniature, it looks like it's just those areas there that need to be done. So I'm going to give that corn red as a base coat. Next stage, we're going to use Reichland Flesh Shade to go over the top of all the red details. Whilst the Reichland Flesh Shade is drying, we're going to tidy up these edges along here, because you can see here the Reichland Flesh Shade on the gold has gone over the top of the blue. We want to tidy that up, and what we're going to do is we're going to use a darker tone paint, which is Cantor Blue. Cantor Blue, which is going to go over the top and make that a really nice finish. Once the dark blue contrast has been applied and it's tidied up the edges here, as you can see around there, we're going to finish off the handle by using tusk or fur and give that a very careful edge highlight over the top here. The next paint we're applying to finish off the handle on the chainsword is to apply a very fine edge highlight of Bugman's Glow, just to bring the colours together very carefully. Once that's finished, it looks like the chainsword is all finished, which is great progress. So next up, we're going to carry on doing the detail work now that the Reichland Flesh Shade has been finished. We're going to apply Mephiston Red just to give that an extra highlight. Once the Mephiston Red is applied, apply Evil Sun Scarlet. Let's do a very gentle blend with the top of the colours. Whilst the Apothecary White contrast paint is drying, we are going to do the next stage, which we're going to do Rykuth Flesh. Now these are going to be the details base coated on the skull and on the tassel there where the Ultra symbol will be. So we need to give that a good base coat. We may need 2 coats of this. Now that the base coating is all done, we're going to apply Acrax Earthshade over the top of the base coat. The next stage, we're going to go back to the tassel here and the white detailing here. And the other thing I forgot to mention is I've done the bones as well inside the casket. Inside there, so it's exactly the same colours as the skull, because obviously it is a bone colour. So we're going to reapply and tidy up with Corax White just to finish off these areas here, getting ready for the highlighting coat. The next stage we're going to be doing is we're going to apply Rykuth Flesh on the skull, Littoral and the bone there. Just going to give it another coat just to make it so it brings out the colours even more. The next stage, after we've done the extra highlight on top of the lieutenant symbol, is we're going to use Ushabti bone to do a good edge highlight. The next stage we're going to do, now that this is all dried, down here, is we're going to apply Game Colour Dead White. Now, this is an edge highlight over all the details on the tassel. So, a little bit of paint there. A good sharp edge. And we're going to do the edge highlight over on these details, just to bring the colours together. You can do the same here with the knee pad and around the back here as well. Now that that's finished, what I've done off camera is I've done exactly the same with regards to doing the gold here. So I've done Retributor armour and Reichland flesh shade over the top of these details here. I've done the back also. However, the one thing that's different is I'm not going to do another coat of Retributor armour because that'll look a bit the same. So what I've done is I've taken Liberator Gold, which is a layer paint, and I'm going to give it a good edge highlight over the top of these details here. Once that's completed, I'm going to give it an edge highlight of Rune Fang Steel over those details. As you can see there, just a very faint silver highlight around the creases. It just brings that to life down there. And that there is the tassel finished. So we're getting there now with the main body of the Captain Titus model. So the next thing we're going to be doing, or be painting, is the purity seals, and we're going to use a base coat of Zandri dust. So the Zandri dust is going to be painted over the top of the tassels. Once the Akarak Surf Shade has been applied to the tassels on the purity seal, we're going to apply Akarak Surf Shade all over the tassel. Whilst off camera, I applied another shade of Akarak Surf Shade on the actual stamps on the purity seal. So now the Akarak Surf Shade is dry on the tassels, we're going to apply a second coat of Zandri dust just to give a natural shadow. The next stage we're going to be doing next, after the second base coat of the tassel is done, we're going to apply Ushabti bone and going to give it a good edge highlight at the top of the Ushabti. Using Ushabti bone and give the creases a good edge highlight. The next stage, after the purity seals tassels are done, we're going to apply another coat of Screamer Pink just over the edges of the purity seal itself, just to give it some depth and a little bit more contrast. The next stage after that is to apply tusk or fur and give it a good edge highlight over the purity seal. Once the purity stamp is finished, we're going to apply Eshin Grey over the lettering, and I'm going to very carefully off camera paint the word Ultra on the lieutenant's insignia. So you've got to be very gentle here, painting little dots and lines across the parchment. Once the lettering's finished, it really does bring the detailing to life. Now we've got 2 stages left to do on the main body. So what I wanted to do is to do some sort of edge highlight on the heavy bolt pistol and on the chainsword, but it's just to give it some depth, and I'm going to use Dawn Stone for this, just to bring the colours a little bit more to life. Just very faint edging here. Just to give it a bit of an edge highlight, not too extreme, but just enough so it brings the detailing out a little bit more. The last stage to do on the body, now that the grey has been brought out a little bit more subtly, if you want to, it's completely up to you. As this is a character model, and knowing Demetrian Titus, he is an awesome character, we're going to give him an extra highlight of Fenrisian grey just on the edge to bring those blues together. Don't have to do the whole thing, it's just the major areas on the edge. It's completely up to you. It's just to give it some more depth to the model. Now we are on to painting Titus's face, which is quite interesting. He's quite an interesting character indeed to look at. I've been looking at pictures, and by the looks of things, it's sort of blacks and browns and a little bit of grey hair, judging by his hair colour, and obviously his skin tone is a light pinkish colour. So what I've done behind the scenes is I've done the edge highlighting, of course, on the back of his helmet. We're going to sort out the padding on the bottom there later on. I've also done off camera the laser lenses. We'll come back to those a little bit more. I've got to do some detailing there on the back here, and also the another laser Intel, whatever you call it, on the hands and the legs. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint one green and one red. I couldn't really find an angle on the image, so it's going to be one green and one red around the back of the head. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a base coat of Bugman's Glow. Bugman's Glow, you'll need 2 coats of thin down paint, and we're going to paint the entire face as a base coat. The next stage we're going to do is we're going to do the lasers on the back there, those 2 lasers. One of them is going to be red and the other one is going to be green, just to bring a little bit more character and colour to the miniature. So I'm going to do the right one red. So base coat of corn red. So base coat of corn red, and let that dry. The next stage is we're going to do the bottom left on the corner. Just a little dab, like that. The next stage we're going to do on the top right is just do a very tiny dot of Abaddon black. Allow it to dry. And then the next stage is on the bottom left, Wild Rider Red. Just very carefully. That's all you need to do. Just a little dab on the bottom left. And that really does bring the colour out over there. The next stage we're going to do is we're going to do the green laser on the back. This is Warp Storm Glow. We're going to use this as a base coat. This is a layer paint, but 2 thin coats should be enough to do the job. And it's literally that. Allow that to dry and we'll go on to the next stage. The next stage is Abaddon Black again, on the top right. Little tiny dab. Blend that in. Water it down a little bit. If you do a mistake, don't worry. Try again. The next stage we're going to do is we're going to do a bottom left highlight of Moat Green layer paint. Very carefully. Let's get a bit of edge on that. Moat Green. Just on there. Brings the greens to life. And there you go. And I may as well do the next stage whilst the camera is rolling. We're going to go back to Game Colour and we're going to use Dead White. Just need a tiny bit here. And on the top right, where the black is, just do a very faint dot. That's all the back of the head details done on the neck. Next up, we're going to go back to the skin. Now that the Bugman's Glow is finally dried, we're going to use Reichland Flesh Shade and we're going to apply that all over the miniature where the skin details are painted. Once the Reichland Flesh Shade is done, you can use a fine detail brush and we're going to use Cadian Flesh Tone. And we're just going to do a base coat on here and leaving any shadowy areas. We're going to do all these details here. Once the Cadian Flesh Tone is finished, apply Kislev Flesh and give it another highlight. Over the highlight, especially on the recessed areas. Sorry, the non-shadow areas, so like the nose, the cheeks, some of the chin as well. Next stage we're going to apply is we're going to apply Flayed One Flesh. Flayed One Flesh. Now these areas here, be very selective. Don't do it all, otherwise it will be too stark. Just do the main raised areas such as the nose, some parts of the cheek, and the jaw. Just be very selective in where you apply this paint. After we've done that with the Flayed One Flesh, now do opposite and apply Tusk or Fur where there's areas where it's too stark. You can tone it down just a little bit. The next stage we're going to do after that is finished, I think that's all the skin done now, which is great. Next up we're going to do the teeth. So we're going to use Corax White for this and very carefully paint his teeth. And that is just right. Apply a little bit of Tusk or Fur on his tongue, just a tiny smidge. it. That's all you've got to do. And then next up, what we're going to do is we're going to do his surface studs. Now he has got 4 of them. So in the narrative, he has been serving the Ultramarines chapter for over 200 years. So he is a veteran Space Marine. He's a heroic Space Marine as well. He's an epic hero for Titus. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply null oil very, very carefully. Just a tiny bit. You'll need a fine detail brush for this. I'm just going to apply it there. Now allow that to dry, and then later on we'll apply the metal studs on there. So the next stage we are going to do is we are going to use Rhinox hide. We use Rhinox hide. Now what's interesting is it's got very dark brown hair with patches of black and a little bit of grey. So I'm going to do the base coat in here for his hair. So that's the base coat of Rhinox hide done. Now whilst that's drying, I'm going to actually paint the eyes. So you need to be extremely careful. This requires a high amount of skill. So very, very carefully apply the base coat using Corax white. Just a little dot. Once the Corax white is done, we're going to apply Corvus black, and we're going to literally paint a tiny dot very carefully. I think that's pretty good. We'll tidy that up off camera and you'll see the eyes details really well. Once the eyes are done, we're going to do a shaved beard around his cheeks. I'm going to apply this very carefully. This is going to have to be watered down. Again, you don't have to do this if you're not confident. So it's a little bit of grey. As you can see here, I've done a little bit of grey of Dawnstone on his chin and around his face. It just brings character to the face as well, and his expression. And also, if you look at the pictures, he's fully shaved, but the hairs are starting to grow through there. So that's the face completed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply Runefang steel, and we're going to do the 4 service studs. There. I'm just going to do one at a time. Bam, there's 1. Bam, there's 2, 3, and 4. The reason why I've done null oil is because you can easily see those studs. That's the face finished. Now we're going to do the hair. Now I've decided to use null oil as a base coat. It's got very dark brown hair. We will bring up the browns later, very faintly, and also a bit of greys as well. So I'm going to use null oil for this task here. So these bits are a bit technical and requires practice, but practice makes perfect. So you just cover the whole hair, all of his hair in null oil. Once the null oil is dried, we're going to apply an edge highlight of Cadian flesh. This is a little bit brighter brown. Again, it is a base paint. We're just going to do the edges very carefully. The next stage is we're going to do 1 part Cadian flesh tone and 1 part Steel Legion drab. Mix them both together. A little bit more Steel Legion drab. Now this is an edge highlight over the hair, very carefully. The next stage is we're going to apply a little bit of grey hair. I'm going to use Dawn Stone, very, very tiny little bit, especially around the sideburn areas. If you want to, you can blend it in a little bit. I've always liked painting faces. It's quite fun because it really does bring the miniature to life. I'm going to put a little bit of grey here on the top here, just a little bit. As you can see now, the head has been glued on. I've painted the neck, and yeah, I'm really proud and pleased of what he has come out like. It was really, really good fun painting him. So there's still a little bit left to do. I've got to do the transfer, which is quite simple. I just put an Ultramarines transfer. I'll do that off camera. And then I've got to paint the basing as well. And on the bottom, which is the shoe area, I'm going to paint that Corvus black. I'm going to do the same there as well. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that off camera. And let's get this miniature finished and ready for battle.
Thank you for watching this tutorial on how to paint Lieutenant Demetrian Titus. I hope you find the painting tips useful for when painting your Ultramarines in the colour scheme of the 13th Legion. Thank you for watching this video. Remember, you can support me by simply heading over to my channel by liking and subscribing to my content, and if you want to support me further, please head over to my Patreon page. Special thank you to all my patrons that are supporting me, an honourable shout out for them. Without their support, this channel would not be possible. And if you want more information, do check out more of my social media pages and everything else. As again, thank you very much for watching, and as always, courage and honour. We march for Macleod, and we shall know no fear. Thank you for watching, and happy wargaming.